Oh yeah, we do.
Presidential elections. My name is Delwiche. I've been covering the UC for the past year. This is Stephen Lee. He's co-moderating with me. He also covered the UC for a year before me during Tara and Jen's administration. So tonight will obviously be a debate, and we hope that the questions we'll be asking will help you see where the candidates differ on a variety of issues before voting starts on Monday. Unlike the IOP-sponsored debate on Thursday, the candidates have not received any word of the questions we're going to be asking. We will also ask the candidates to ask each other questions, and then we will open the audience for questions. So for ground rules, we're going to begin with brief opening statements. Then we will ask 2 general questions that everyone will answer. But we will quickly move into targeted questions for each individual ticket. Then we will ask candidates to respond to other tickets' ideas. And then we will have the competitors ask each other questions before we open the floor for audience questions. So we're first going to begin with opening statements. We can begin with Stephen and Luke. 2 minutes for an opening and introductory statement.
Beautiful. So Stephen Turbin from the great state of Missouri. And so just to talk about our platform, the large broad of it is social life. We're going to talk about it in 2 big ways. The first is social life within the UC, and the second big part is social life on campus. So let's get a little explanation about what does the UC do, how does it meet. Every week the UC meets about 40 people, and we are subjugated to what is called parliamentary procedure. And if you've ever experienced parliamentary procedure, like Evie has, you'll know that you have to vote in order to vote. This is honestly one of the most disappointing things that we have on the UC, and it shows by our attrition rate. From last year's council, we have about 40% of the members. This kind of goes under an underlying theme of the UC, where it's not structured well, and it's not structured for bonding, and not structured for a lively community. This is a big thing we want to approach. The second big thing is social life on campus. We believe that clubs should be able to choose how and where they want to spend their money. One big part of club spending, and one big part of social life at Harvard, is alcohol and is the party scene. We believe that clubs should be a part of that, and we believe that clubs should be able to be funded by the UC for alcohol.
I think that sounds good to me. I think we'll just leave it at that. That sounds good to me.
Alright, next up is Megamsh and Emma.
Okay, hi, I'm Megamsh Kanaparthi. I'm a junior in Kirkland House, and I'm a UC treasurer.
I'm Emma Horvath. I'm a junior in Quincy House. I have no UC experience. But just like one of the Crimson comments said, I am one of the 8 ass hats hoping. Alright, so we have 4 deliverables that we think we can accomplish in the next 2 years. 1 year. So the first one is social space. So the whole house renewal renovation is under reflection and review this coming year. And one thing that they're getting rid of is in-suite common rooms. They're turning those into hall common rooms with glass doors, and no one wants to party in a glass house. So we're hoping that they stop doing that, and that's going to be one of our main priorities, making sure that the administration knows that's not okay.
So another thing we like to do is fix funding for small and youth student groups. So the way we would do this is we would give them more flexibility in terms of how the funding policies work. We'd also like to set aside a bunch of money, about $15,000, that can be allocated by the UC Finance Committee without the policy guide, because we think the decisions, the reasons for making a decision should be needed, and not necessarily because you can check off a box, or if you can get a person to show up to your event, you automatically get $3.
30 seconds. A third one is storage. We don't think that just because you happen to be in a house that suddenly has a gorgeous basement, you don't have storage options. We want to at least make storage a possibility for those who are on severe financial aid.
And the fourth thing is to get the Smith Campus Center plans released. And just based on the talk that we've heard, it's not going to be an undergraduate space at all. And we think that's a damn shame if it's going to be in the middle of all the undergrads.
Time.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah!
Happy and Faith, you have 2 minutes.
Hey everyone, my name is Happy Yay. I am a junior in Curry House.
And my name is Faith Jackson, and I'm a student in Winthrop.
And we are running to reinvent the UC as in YOUC. And what that means is that we are addressing your issues and involving your voice. And to do that, we have our two-pronged platform. Be happy.
Have faith.
And be happy means to promote campus wellness and student happiness. So important. And that means we are demanding a greater student input when the university is reviewing the new sexual assault policy. That means we are demanding a inclusive social space on campus, a multicultural center, and a nap space to address the issue of sleep deprivation on campus.
And then on the have faith side, it means that we're trying to restructure and change things up so that we actually involve UC outsiders and create an institution you can have faith in. And so that's having it so that students can vote on the agenda items for the semesterly meeting the UC has with President Faust and different things like that. We want to be more involved with HOCOs. We want to demystify the funding process. And we're also an insider-outsider ticket, and that's kind of very much been reflected in our platform. And so we just want to make sure you guys remember to be happy, have faith, and reinvent the UC.
Woo. Woo. All right, Ava and Drew, you have 2 minutes.
Hi guys, I'm Ava. I'm a junior in FOHO.
Hi guys, I'm Dhruv Goyal. I'm a junior in Lowell House.
And there are 2 really main ideas Dhruv and I wanted to get at with our platform. One of them was driving the transformation from Harvard being this weird collection of individuals at one place to really a cohesive community. And the second one is about putting financial sustainability behind that. In order to explain it to you guys, I thought it would be kind of fun to develop a 4F system with alliteration. So first one is FOMO, fear of missing out. Basically, not a lot of people know that the Harvard UC funds about 40 events per week. And we want to change that by making these events more transparent through an app that offers a customizable, comprehensive calendar that offers it in an easily digestible way. And that brings me to my second F, food. A lot at Harvard happens around food, and we're going to capitalize on that, right? So we're going to bring food trucks to the river houses, more veggie options in the G halls, and weekend brain breaks.
Yeah. So that takes us to the third F and the idea of Freshman Housing Day. I know a lot of you here had midterms on Freshman Housing Day, and that would absolutely suck. Since Freshman Housing Day is one of those days in the year which is actually very unique to Harvard in the sense that it brings freshmen and upperclassmen together. So we're going to make sure that there are going to be absolutely no midterms administered on that day. And so the first 3 F's, which actually hit at building community, we need to do that in a financially sustainable way. And so funding is our 4th priority, where we want to leverage alumni donations, which is something that has never been done in the past.
All right, that's time.
So we will now move into general questions. We'll have 2 general questions. We're going to say for all tickets.
Yeah.
1.5 minutes to respond. Our first question, we'll begin with Ava and Dhruv and go down the line. Does the UC have enough power to influence administrative decisions affecting undergraduates? And can you give concrete plans to reform the UC's ability to do so?
So I think if you look back at the UC's history, think about swiping into different houses. Think about having exams before winter break. Think about the honor council that's just been created where a student's going to serve on that honor council. These are 3 very, very clear examples of the ways in which the UC has been able to mold administrative policy. I serve as chair of the education committee, and currently we're working on projects like capping section sizes to 12 and gen ed policy reform. And I think the administration is very receptive to those ideas as long as we bring the dialogue forward to them, we listen to their input and come up with holistic decisions and policy decisions.
And if elected, our plan for dealing with advocacy and policy is treating it as this two-way information street. So listening to both the admins, but also, you know, guys, listening to the students. And how do we really bring that information to you? We bring it in an effective manner that clearly shows communication. And one of the ways we want to do that, as we've displayed today, is through infographics. So check out our Facebook page. It has an infographic on the recent Stillman decision.
Happy and faith. Happy and faith. Happy and faith, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
So does the UC have the power to influence the administration? We have the power if you guys, the students, give us the power. Last year, Joe Dickens won the UC election. It shows that and it shows that students do not believe that UC is the most effective student government. And that is why this year we are reinventing UC. We are asking you to be part of this process. We are asking you to give us the power. That's why we are reinventing the UC to include you, YOUC. And to do that concretely, we are creating issue task forces that includes not only UC insiders, but also UC outsiders to be part of this process, because change cannot happen if it's only UC insider working on this.
And yeah, so I think that's just the big idea, that right now the university does not take the UC seriously. I think that that's reflective in the fact that a lot of decisions are being made, and then you'll hear from the university as to like what they should have done to involve students afterwards. And I think that the UC can be incredibly useful, but you have to be able to tell Drew Faust that like, no, we don't, you can't like decide you're closing down Stillman and then tell us afterwards. That's not how it works.
All right.
All right.
Megam and Emma, you guys have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Okay, so the issue with this question is that I can't promise that, you know, the administration is gonna how the administration is gonna act. But I mean, Megam and I can promise how we will act. And basically, I think the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? You don't allow for compromise. You come up with a few very specific things you want to change, and you push those every single time you meet with the administration.
Basically, our message to the administration is tell us before you do something stupid, because track record's not great on that one.
Yeah. 250K is a great example. It's a huge goal. We didn't get 250K, but we're probably going to get 50K, which, oh my God, that's a lot of money. And the way that was accomplished is through exposure. It was in the crimson every single week. It like Gus and Cisa didn't drop it. You know, it's you keep it one big thing or a few big things, and that's how you get things accomplished.
Yeah.
Steven, you guys have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah, okay, so last year we had a ticket that ran out tomato basil ravioli soup, and all of a sudden we have $50K coming our way. So I think this question of what the UC wants and what the UC needs is really people that are relatable with the college, and people that the college wants to interact with, and not only that, but also administration wants to work with. Steve and I both have friends in the administration, and we both have friends in the
Shout out to Dean Damon.
Dean Damon. And I mean, like, I think that's the key, because we can talk about that the UC, we can pretend that the UC has a lot of power, but in the end, the UC doesn't have a lot of power. We can talk about the honor code and how that was a sweeping success for the UC. That was a response by Harvard to address the cheating scandal 3 years ago. Like, that wasn't the UC. Like, let's be real about that. I think that we need to acknowledge that UC's recognize what the UC is and not pretend it's something more than it's not, and go from there.
The second question that we have for candidates. What do you believe is the single biggest issue affecting students on campus right now? What specific reforms to current policies or factors relating to the issue do you propose? We'll start with Happy and then we'll go back around.
So I think that the issue really boils down to exclusivity. We are an exclusive campus based on our nature. Like, we all know the statistics for getting in here. And I think the worst part about Harvard is that it continues here. Like, Harvard, honestly, they could be like, there are free sandwiches in the D Hall, you must lotteries, preference given to seniors, like, everything's exclusive, and that's included in our social space. I think it's despicable that every safe space for minorities is literally underground. Like, literally underground. Women's Center is in Candidate basement. Like, Quaffis is in, like, Tigner Lounge basement. Why is this a thing? Like, this is why we're fighting for a multicultural center. Like, there's an issue in terms of the social space. On a Friday night, like, that's the most divisive time in our campus. Like, we can take the same classes, have the same majors, but at the end of the day, I'm going to, like, the Black Student Organization for a party. I'm going to mock trial for a party. I'm not going to a place with all of my classmates, and that's something that is a big issue here, and something that we're going to fight for.
All right, big option, Emma.
So I think there are a few major things. Social space is definitely one of them. Getting rid of common rooms are one of the few places on campus where if you're not in a final club, if you're not in a sorority or fraternity, those spaces belong to you. And getting rid of them in house renewal is a big deal. It's a big shame too. But more than anything, I think it comes down to, and Stillman is a big deal, it comes down to a pattern. It comes down to a pattern that happens over and over again, right? Is that decisions get made and then students get consulted. That people decide what's going to happen and then pretend that having a town hall afterwards makes up for like having a discussion. Is that you can't do that. It's not okay. It's patronizing. You can't make a decision and then pretend that telling us the decision is talking about and giving us input in the decision. I think that's what it is.
All right.
Yeah, I think a great example of that, which also tags on to what is one of the biggest problems at Harvard, is the lack of social space at Harvard. So for example, no, really, like, I think that's a huge problem. So a great example is the Smith Center, in which the administration was very clear about having student input in the beginning. I was there, I thought it was a great time, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, no, we're done. So I think that the issue of social space is critical, but not only that, also soliciting student input in that.
I think a large part of that as well is that we have, so back up, from Missouri. I had a friend from the University of Missouri come by, hang out with me, and he was like, yo, Steve, what are we doing tonight? I'm like, yo, I'm gonna hit Young Dems, we're gonna go to the South Asian American Association, and then we're gonna go to B Club. And he was like, okay, when are we going to the party? John, that is the party. That's incredible. Like, that's so cool that we go on this campus where our main social sphere are these extracurricular clubs that we love. And the UC should be supporting that. And that's a large part of why we believe that the UC should be allowing clubs to choose when and how they want to interact socially. And that does involve alcohol, and that's a reality on our campus.
All right, Alvin.
Yeah, I think we agree exclusivity is a problem, but currently, given the Stillman changes, exclusivity in healthcare is where the problem lies.
Yeah, if we're talking about right now, yeah, I mean, exclusive healthcare really sucks, especially when you're throwing up. So, let's say you're intoxicated on a Saturday night, you're throwing up. Going to Mount Hubbard is a lot different than going to UHS. I know I've taken care of my friends when they're in this situation. It's a lot different. That 1.5 mile difference is a big deal. In addition, not being able to go to an actual space on your campus after 10 p.m. when, guys, I've been there during finals, freshman year. I was really sick at 2 a.m. I walked into UHS. I didn't call a nurse who was going to triage me and tell me what home care I could do. So if you're asking right now, Stephen, I honestly think right now the recent Stillman changes affect us all, especially on a Saturday night.
All right. We'll now move on to asking 3 targeted questions to each ticket. Responses are supposed to be no longer than 1 minute.
Okay. And we'll begin with Ava and Drew. Ava, the Crimson reported on January 27th that you suggested the new UC website would be released the next day. The website did not launch until 3 months later.
Guys, please.
As Student Relations Committee Chair, you were also entrusted with overseeing We the Crimson and Operation Ghost Protocol. neither of which have been great successes this year. If elected UC president, how will you ensure that the council's initiatives, both current and new, will be executed effectively and on time?
Yeah, so actually thank you for asking that question, Noah, because when it comes to the website, how many of you guys have ever dealt with the IT at Harvard? Because the IT, basically at Harvard, they control the server that you're working on, for at least us. We are on the fast@harvard.edu website. So the IT calls you up and you have your whole website ready and they say, oh, sorry, you really can't upload it. Oh, and then the person working on your website had to take some time off. Then it's a little bit cumbersome. And as far as We the Crimson goes, We the Crimson was a pilot program and we had to evaluate. If a pilot program is not working, why would we still go with it? And when it comes to Ghost Protocol, Gus and I worked on that together, and that's how we got really close, I think, in that situation. And I think with Ghost Protocol, you guys were able to see our face, Gus's face, Drew's face, Abby's face, a lot of faces. So I think it's a little bit accusatory to call Ghost Protocol a failure.
All right, next question is for the Luke and Steven, specifically to you, Steven. All right. You made it a point in the election video on September 16th, 2013, to address the little things like printing costs. Could you detail the progress that you've made in the last year on that goal?
Also, I believe in that poster I said Harvard has the largest endowment. And then I made a reference to my own endowment.
Which is also substantial.
On the
All right, Steven, could you please answer?
So I met with administration, I met with the FDO on this, and this is an issue that actually a number of, this is where I have to admit where I think I'm wrong. I talked to FDO, this is the reasoning, and I think that it was better than my reasoning. They said that having printing costs means that students think actively when they're printing, and that is good for the environment. And I realized that my point had been that I have to pay for printing, that sucks. And I've been pretty small-minded. And I decided, that maybe this isn't the best initiative for me to pursue.
The next question is from Delwiche and Emma, specifically Emma. Emma, you have never served on the council. There's a steep learning curve associated with stepping into the UC presidency and vice presidency, even for long-time UC representatives. What skills do you bring to the table that will allow you to lead the UC effectively? And, if elected, which 2 of the 5 UC committees would you like to work most closely with?
In hoping to solicit some advice from current President Gus Mayopoulos, he said that his learning curve, it was steep, but it wasn't unmanageable, and that was mainly because there were so many people willing to help him, and extremely kind and patient. It sounds like he fit in like a glove into the UC, and I don't think that. I don't think the UC would object to having an outsider. It's been proven to work before. I think another point of view is wonderful and valuable. It keeps things fresh. Yeah. I think I balanced Nagomsh's experience. He sat through so many meetings. As far as the
30 seconds.
2 committees, student life, absolutely, and funding, yeah.
Next question is for Happy and Faith, specifically Happy. Happy, you serve as the Student Faculty Committee Director for the UC. Can you provide specific, concrete examples of substantive change that have come out of these committees?
Exactly. I think the UC Student Faculty Committee tries to work with the administration on specific changes. For example, one of the biggest initiatives this year, the HUS Committee put through the streamlining the bag lunch system. Before last year, you can only order a bag lunch if you are only order for that one day. But the student faculty committee on HUTs worked really hard with the administration to put through so that now you can order bag lunch repeatedly for the whole semester. And that's a change that we made. And then also this year, the UHS committee is actively pushing through the nap space initiative because we think that there is a mental health issue on campus that with these nap spaces, we can address the issue of sleep deprivation and stress on campus. And that's another initiative that we're pushing through.
All right.
Alvin Drew, you proposed that the UC reach out to alumni donors to secure more funding. Other candidates have called this idea presumptuous and far-fetched. Can you present your detailed plan for getting alumni to donate? And do you imagine the university, which is continuing a capital campaign of its own, might give you pushback?
Absolutely. So 2 things here. Just to start off with, I serve on the Harvard Alumni Association, and I was chair of the Student Relations Committee, which means both of us have had a significant amount of face time with both administrators and regular donors to Harvard. The way donations to Harvard work is that if you're a regular donor to Harvard, you have the ability to earmark a part of your fund, say 3 to 5% even, to certain causes, right? And so our plan is very simple. We take a pool of alumni that regularly donate to Harvard, and we go to them and make a presentation saying, you know what, how would you like to potentially put a part of your fund into the Student Life Fund, which can go directly into student group funding. And we've pitched this idea to a couple of alumni, and they've been very receptive to doing so. So getting the alumni on our side, coupled with, will make our case even stronger to the administration when we go to them asking for permission to get this money essentially from alumni.
And as we have time for
This question is for Luke and Steven. You both want to make the UC a more fun place, but fault the administration with rendering the UC a joke.
Yeah.
How do you plan to make the UC more powerful and more laid back at the same time?
Absolutely. So I think like a big thing that we've already spoken to about this is reforming how the UC works internally. So for example, right now we work under parliamentary procedures, which is a type of procedure that's done in large committee bodies. Community bodies, sorry. I think that if you've been to a UC meeting, which most of you haven't, to be fair, you can debate on one rule for 10 minutes and get nothing done. Not even on legislation, but a rule of the legislation. So we think if we strip that out, we'll make a community and reform the rules. I think that we can make a community within the UC that people feel more comfortable and passionate to be in.
I also push back against the question in its entirety. The best clubs on campus have the most fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
FOP, many of the cultural organizations, they have fun and they do good because they're having a great time. Those are not separate, they're intentionally entwined.
Absolutely.
This question is for Happy and Faith. You mentioned in your platform that you will push hard to see Harvard adopt an affirmative consent policy. Despite the results of a referendum question 2 years ago, the UC's public support and advocacy from Our Harvard Can Do Better and several graduate student groups, the new university-wide policy has been written and adopted without any mention of affirmative consent. Moreover, University Title IX coordinator Mia Carbonides has made no indication that the language will change anytime soon. Why do you think that anything will change with a greater push from the council with you as its leaders?
So I think that that question was actually not completely accurate. What was actually voted on was the Harvard revisiting a sexual assault policy, and that's something that it has been doing. And so what we actually need to do is perhaps have a referendum where students actually vote on affirmative consent, because what we've seen is that Harvard reacted to the information they were given as to what the students wanted. So we need to give them more information as to what the students want. Because right now they know that the students want a new policy and that's what we're getting, but they need to know that the students want affirmative consent and that's what you need to give us.
30 seconds.
Is that the case? We don't know until students actually vote on it, but it's such a huge issue that there's no reason why the students should not be deciding on this instead of just having 45 members of a 6,700 person community decide on it.
This question is for McGosh and Emma, specifically for McGosh. You said you were mad at Gus and Sita for knowing about some of the recent healthcare service changes before they were announced, but not sharing it with students. While some may argue that full transparency is the best policy, leaking administrative decisions may have a detrimental effect on the administration's willingness to include the UC leadership in conversations about major decisions in the future. What then would you have done if you were in Gus's position?
So Gus and I have talked about this before I said that and after I've said that. And I think I still stand by that. Honestly, like, if you're worried that your bad PR is going to affect your ability to do things, you're probably doing something that you don't want to do in the first place, that people don't want. If you're worried that students are going to get mad about it, treat us like adults. Like, come and explain your reasoning to us. You know, we're smart people. And then you can, yeah, so then we can, instead of being mad after the fact, we can reach the conclusion with you. And I stand by that 100%. Yeah.
This question is for Happy and Faith. In your platform, you call for the creation of a safe social space for undergraduates. Given constraints both in the yard and in the square, where do you envision this social space would be housed, beyond what is already being created in the Smith Campus Center?
So this is again something that I've actually worked with Dean Rakesh Khurana on. And so we actually went to him asking about the space, and we're saying that we wanted a non-gendered social space on campus that had the same like structures of final clubs, unfortunately. And he actually was a person that was like, why are you trying to make it like a final club? This is the issue with Harvard. People come here, they try to do the same things instead of actually changing things up, right? And so it's kind of like what led me to run, but that's a separate issue altogether. But when speaking to him, he was just like so much like, he's apparently studied this for so long. He was literally like, come back, tell me which house you want to buy on campus. Like, it's to the point where Harvard is like, he's like, this is such a huge issue. If you come up with a detailed plan and tell us where you want us to buy a house, we're ready to do it because this is an issue. And this is affecting so many more things on campus. And so it's the point where not only are we looking at the Smith Center, but it's also looking at what buildings do we have and how do we make an attractive space that is affiliated with the university, but it's still attractive enough that students want to attend.
All right, this question is for Megamsh and Emma, specifically for Megamsh. In addition to your duties at the UC, you have served on the Kirkland House Committee. This semester, in an effort to encourage more social interaction at the houses, the college established restrictions on inter-house dining on Thursday night. Some students have suggested that this new rule disrupts involvement in extracurricular activity. Where do you stand on this decision? And as UC president, how would you prioritize between supporting house life and supporting student organizations?
Good question. I think the first thing is community dinner's a little stupid. Especially if you live in the quad, you know, you have to make a trek all the way up there, and you can't. I think at the very least there should be some sort of like partner house where you can go and you can eat. If you live in the quad, you can eat in one of the partner houses on the river. And the second thing is I don't see there being a conflict between HOCOs and student groups. I reject that. Like, ultimately, they all make a big part of your Harvard experience. I think that your involvement in an extracurricular is just as valid as your involvement at a Stein Club, or if you rush the yard at Housing Day. And I don't see why they have to come into conflict. The houses are there to provide a community if you're not part of a big social club, or even if you are, just to be a place where you can be who you are.
Next question is for Steven and Luke. Sweet. You've already been fined $40 for campaign by knowingly violating campaign rules in a stunt where you replace bulletins and dashboards with watermark images of yourself. You also use humor as a main campaign strategy. Are you emulating Sam and Gus's campaign strategy, and are your campaign stunts gimmicks? What are you serious about?
Okay, so that's a legitimate question. But there isn't a question of whether we're a legitimate campaign. First, because we've already paid all of our fines off and we are in the clear. So I mean, like, there's no question of whether we're a legitimate campaign or not. Two, and there's actually a Crimson piece about whether we're living in a Sam and Gus era, whether we were trying to like recreate this ethos. That era was 2 weeks. Like, let's get over it. Like, come on. I loved it. It was 2 weeks. week, it's time to break up. So like that's the thing. Also, humor existed far before that. I think we need to talk about it. Seriously, like a new creation here. I think like the big thing is like I think humor is a great platform on which to read the student body. If your emails are boring and 10-point font and Times New Roman, you would not read them. I wouldn't read them, and I'm on the UC. I mean, that's the thing. Like, you need to have something that captivates people's attention, gets people fired up about the UC. A lot of the problems with the UC are not just within the UC, it's about the UC connecting with the student body. And in weird ways, in which while you're eating your chicken from the grill, you're connecting with the UC while we gaze in your eyes. I mean, not bad.
This question is for Alva and Drew, specifically Drew. Despite your current position as the UC Education Committee Chair, your campaign platform makes no mention of improving the undergraduate educational experience. Do you have any specific initiatives in mind in that area beyond what the UC has already done to endorse smaller sector sizes and call for the reinstatement of QBI difficulty ratings?
So as chair of the education committee, our committee has essentially been working on 6 or 7 projects, and if you look at the ballot that the ballot this year, the presidential ballot, there'll be 2 questions that are very specifically addressing academic reform. One is on readdressing the issue of removing difficulty scores, and the other question is on capping section sizes. Both of these have come out of the committee that I've essentially worked on, and both of these projects are very central to the kind of work that I've done as chair of the education committee, and therefore, if elected as president and vice president of the undergraduate council, these 2 will, I mean, naturally be central to the work that we do, and therefore it didn't require an additional mention as part of our campaign platform, given that these 2 questions will already be on the presidential ballot and will be central to our work.
We'll have some rapid fire questions for tickets to comment on specific elements of other platforms. Candidates, please keep your responses limited to 30 seconds.
It's not. It's like we're not doing it because the lawyers stepped in and said we couldn't do it, you know? It's not like this isn't a question. It's a question that's already been answered. And if we did this, last time we tried this, all the funding for student groups got pulled. And I don't think that's the world that we want to live in.
All right, Luke and Steven. Luke, in the last debate, you said Facebook events work just fine for notifying students about what's going on. Do you see value in the app Alva and Drew were pushing for, which would suggest, which they are suggesting would help eliminate the fear of missing out on activities?
Yeah, here's news for you guys. You already have the app. It's called My Events. Go on myharvard.com/edu, scroll down, you'll see My Events, but it's already for the Harvard community. I mean, if we're 2 months late on a website, how can we promise an app within 1 term? Not only an app, but a comprehensive social media for people who are not studying CS. Let's be real.
How many of you over here have been to My Events?
No, my phone right now.
Okay.
Guys, please, we want to stay here forever.
Yes, I do. Other candidates have said UC meetings are incredibly boring, confusing, and ineffective. Do you agree, and do you propose any specific changes to the internal structure or procedures of the council?
Yeah, so I would agree with the other candidates that Parley Pro, I think that's one of the ineffective parts, is really confusing. I often, if you come to a UC Gen, Sundays 7 to 9, you'll see that I'll raise my hand probably in the middle of the procedure and be like, hi, these are my thoughts, these are my feelings, and like, I think this is the idea we should do. I completely agree. I think we can all agree, like, why not have an easier system and why not have a more open system? If elected, Drew and I will definitely challenge the Parley Pro system and look for alternatives. I can't say right now people have done that.
All right. This question is for Happy and Faith. Megamsh and Emma say they also want to improve the UC grants process, specifically focusing on reforming funding rules for smaller groups. Megamsh, as you know, is currently the council's treasurer. Do you believe that you are more qualified or capable of reforming the funding process than Megamsh and Emma are?
Yeah, actually, I think that because Megamsh is currently treasurer and inside the UC and we haven't seen those changes, I'm actually a little bit more concerned. I mean, I think he's great, but I do think that sometimes you need an outside perspective and you need someone who's not been dealing with the issue, who can look at it differently and realize that you have to change something. And I think I'm sure he's done a great job, but I do think that there are obviously changes that haven't been in effect while he's in office, and I'm wondering if we need someone else in office in order to get those changes.
This one's for Steven and Libby. Happy and Faith want to create a multicultural center to demonstrate the school's commitment to minority students on campus. Do you think the university can improve and be more inclusive? And what would you do to help foster that inclusion?
I think it's actually a really big issue on campus. We kind of forget that there are also, elephant in the room, we're 2 Anglo-Saxon and males, quarter Jewish, watch out. And we don't represent this supposed diversity. And there's this conversation about having this campus that there's there's a lot more diversity than just gender and race. Socioeconomic is something that's not brought up. I think that within
All right. Let's see you finish. You're finished?
Go ahead.
No, I think like those are all fair points. I don't know why this is a serious issue. Like there is far more diversity than your gender or your race. And once you boil down diversity to a gender and a race, aren't you just whitewashing what actually makes you a person? Like aren't you just the basis of your race and gender? Like come on, there's a lot more diversity than this. We can just face like
This one's for Happy and Faith. As a ticket, Av and Drew have together been on the UC for the longest time compared to any other ticket. Could this hinder or help their ability to lead or reform the council effectively?
I think that I have the experience to navigate through the resources and channels of change within the UC. And I see that within the UC, like the other thing you mentioned, we need a lot of structural reform. And that's why we are having an outsider perspective in our ticket. Because even though inside the UC individually, we try to work on a lot of initiatives. Outside the UC, students do not believe that we're the most effective student body, student government. That's why we need an outside perspective to change things up.
All right. Last question. Last question for Megamsh and Emma. Happy and Faith propose allowing the student body to vote on agenda items for the meeting between the UC leadership and university president Dean Faust. Do you think this is a feasible plan?
Yes. It's a good plan. It's actually what we were talking about in exact, like, this is the kind of thing we should be doing, is getting the student body's input on this. It's a great idea. And just because another ticket has it doesn't mean it's not a good idea.
All right, so now we've come to the more exciting part of tonight, where we all right, guys, we sort of take a step back, and first we're going to let the candidates ask one another questions. So please keep your questions brief, and respondents limit yourself to limited answers. First, Happy and Faith may ask a question to me, Steven.
Okay, all right. So, Steven, as you can see that today Faith has a bow tie, but I don't have a bow tie.
No.
So for future reference, can you teach me how to tie a bow tie?
I can. I don't want to show you right now, but this is
Can you show us? Tie it.
For reference, I am really bad at tying bow ties, so I had to tie. I wouldn't mind Megamsh to tie, to be honest. Megamsh's a great tie.
Let's working together, baby.
All right, 10 seconds. All right. That was interesting. Nigant and Emma, you may ask a question to Ava and Drew, and you guys have a minute to respond.
Okay.
This idea of soliciting funds from alums, I'm curious why the alums would choose to give their money to the UC when the UC is going to give that money to student groups when the alums can just give it to the student groups of their choice. Why do we have to be a middleman?
Absolutely, because alums don't know what's the best and most equitable way to give money out to students. A lot of alums want to give money, want to ensure that their money is being used in the most equitable manner. And since the UC considers applications from a whole host of different groups on campus and understands what the effective membership is of all these different groups, I think we are in a good position to evaluate what the demands of different groups are and therefore use the funds in an appropriate manner. And for alums, they can see their money being used in a tangible sort of manner within a very short period of time versus putting money into house renewals for Lowell, which will happen like 10 years later. So therefore, they're more receptive to this idea of putting money into student life fund, where their money will go into theater performances like the ones that you're part of.
Yes, well, can I just...
There's no follow-up, sorry.
Stephen and Luke, you can ask Happy and Faith the question.
Oh, okay. So I'm not going to ask you to tie your bow tie because I don't think that's relevant to this conversation.
Just like you think minority students are relevant to this campus?
Your ticket has said that you don't want it to be you don't have to know a UC insider to receive campaign funding, yeah, or receive funding for your club, yes? That said, an anonymous source has told me that Happy, you have promised Nick Bonstow, quote, buckets of money if you are elected to the UC. How do you feel about that? I'm really curious.
Okay. 1 minute.
I reject the source of your information. They were part of that. So.
Do we have Nick's response to this?
All right.
So, Megansh, you've proposed a solution of increasing student group funding or making the policy more lax towards smaller student groups. Assuming that the pie or the budget has remained the same since 2008, giving more money to smaller student groups would mean taking money away from somewhere else. How does that mean you're going to take money away from the larger groups like CSA, AAA on campus?
So there are two things. First, I'm very happy to say that we've actually gotten more money this year than we've ever had in the past. We're actually getting another $15,000 because of a report that I wrote. Okay, it would be great to have more money. No one's arguing that there shouldn't be more money. But we have to look at how we can maximize how the money we have will be used. And I think, I've looked at the data, I've thought about this for a long time, I think this is a realistic way of making sure that new and upcoming student groups have the ability to become large student groups, right? And I think it makes sense, and ultimately, I think it's the right thing to do.
We've got the extra cash.
All right.
Megansh and Emma, you can ask a question to Stephen and Luke.
Quite honestly, what are you all doing? Luke and Steven I love Luke and Steven. I just really want to know, like, what's the deal?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to let us explain, I guess.
No, seriously.
I think, seriously. I mean, like last year you had two people who ran again on tomato and basil ravioli soup, and the UC's never been better. I mean, to call us a joke ticket and to say that, hey, you guys aren't serious about this? I mean, Steve and I have both served on the UC. Steven's was secretary of the UC last year and into this year. I mean, to cast this as illegitimate and to say that we don't have a grasp on the UC is completely wrong.
Yeah. Also, I don't think that's it.
But just
also, I think we think we do a really great job. Also, Luke's one of my best friends. I thought this would be an awesome experience to share with him, and it's been ridiculous. We want to win, but also like hanging out with Luke has been awesome.
Yeah. And honestly, like if we don't win, like that's fine. Like we're okay with that. But if we don't win and you guys are more excited about the UC, then I think that we've done our job.
May I ask a question to Happy and Faith?
Okay, so Happy and Faith, you guys have talked about demissing the funding process. I think that's awesome. I think it needs to happen. But you guys have mentioned one of the ways at the ILP debate, you said one of the ways you wanted to do it was to offer workshops for treasurers of the clubs. That already does exist, so I was wondering if you could propose one or two other specific mechanisms that you wanted to demystify.
Thank you, Alma. So I think that's something that's under the half-baked prong, and that's one thing that we actually spoke about afterwards. I think it's an issue that more clubs don't know about that. And in terms of another thing that we want to do, it's not just having the workshops, but actually have it so that clubs have liaisons that serve on the finance committee. Because one of the biggest issues is that you just want to have someone you know to email if you're like, what the hell is this grant application, right? And so it's connecting students with someone who will serve as that person they can email. So in addition to making sure that people know that these workshops exist, it's also making sure that they have a specific person they can reach out to should they need to.
Steven and Luke, you can ask a question to Magamsh.
Yeah. So Magamsh, this week with Magamsh, sorry, Emma. I think you're one of the hardest working people. I think you're the hardest working person on the console.
Yeah.
I think you do the most. You knock stuff out. You keep the council together. A lot of what you do propose as a presidential candidate, though, I think could be done as treasurer. Why do you feel like you need to step outside that role, and will you stay in treasurer if you're not elected?
Yeah. So I thought a really long time about whether I should run or not. Actually, Emma was one of the people who convinced me to run. I thought about what kind of leadership I wanted to see in the council. Quite honestly, I thought really hard about what I wanted to see, and I really enjoyed my time for the first time as a UC rep. I really enjoyed my time on the UC, and I don't know what I can say, but I want to see more of that style of leadership. I wanted to see more of a friendlier, happier UC, and one that still gets things done. If I'm not elected, I'd love to stay on as treasurer if you'd have me.
All right, Happy and Faith, you may ask a question to Alva and Ruth.
So we think that like female final clubs are such a great answer to male final clubs, in that anything guys can do, girls can do better. But my question is just like, with you guys having a platform of FOMO, fear of missing out, how do you think the final club scene fits into that?
Yeah, I think I can take this question. So I think we need to realize that final clubs are here, and final clubs do exist. I think what your question really is referring to, though, is how can we look at the campus as a whole and address this issue of inclusivity and of social spaces? And I think we have to consider the community that's both on campus and the unrecognized sororities, fraternities, and final clubs, because they're still part of the student population, you know? So I would love to, like, regardless of how this turns out, I'd love to work with you and Happy on finding a safer social space. Because I think, regardless of where you're coming from, you want a social space. You want somewhere to hang out with your friends, to grab a drink or two, alcoholic or not, and you just want to be able to feel part of the community. So final clubs, no final clubs, there still needs to be a social space.
You may ask a question to Steven and Luke.
Okay.
Steven and Luke. So you guys have proposed alcohol as funding alcohol as one of your platform things. Platform ideas. So I think a drink can say a lot about a man. Please tell me what your 2 favorite drinks are.
So I think the most important thing is to recognize that the UC is not advocating for underage drinking. So I am 20 years old, and I will not officially say that I drink alcohol here. But I do think that if you are of age, you should be able to drink what you want, alcoholic or not, whether you're in a final club or not. So I think we should talk about how we create spaces that can do that.
That being said, scotch with 2 is the best.
So, Luke and Steven, you can ask a question for Alvin.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the election, we had 5 tickets who had declared to run. A recent Crimson article had reported that Drew, you had spoke to the 5th ticket to talk to them about their candidacy. They recently, afterwards, they decided to not declare their candidacy and drop out of the election. Do you think that shows leadership, or do you think that shows leadership and respect the democratic process to speak to another group of candidates about their bid for the election?
No, I'm glad you asked that question, and I think I'm going to say here that the tone of the article did not, sorry Noah, the tone of the article did not reflect the conversation that I had with Michael and Connor. Let's remember, Michael and Connor are in the same house as me. I'm their Lowell House representative. I've known Connor for 1.5 years. The conversation that we had was purely about what the undergraduate council president and vice president do, as in what their day-to-day responsibilities are, what their day-to-day work entails, because they were curious to know whether they themselves had the time to put into this job if elected as president and VP. I said in the article, and they reiterated that in the article, that I had nothing to do with their decision of staying on in the race or dropping out. And you know, we really, and therefore they brought up a couple of issues that they were very serious about, and we spoke, and I spoke to them, and they felt that that we were in the best position to take those issues forward, given our proven track record and experience. And now I'm happy that they're supporting us in our bid for President VP. As mentioned in Noah's article.
At the very bottom.
All right. Happy in faith, you may ask McAlpin a question.
So one of the key things in your platform is like advocating for more social space, and you spoke about that, like one of it is like keeping into common rooms, which is something that is currently in existence. And then the second part was like making sure that the university releases the plans for the Smith Center. So I was just curious as to like which part of that and what's your follow-up in terms of like increasing social space and not just like keeping what we have, and what exactly you plan to do once the plans for the Smith Center are released.
Okay, so I'll answer the first part on the Smith Campus Center. So first, I'd love to have a discussion about the Smith Campus Center, but up until very recently, Gus was the only person who was on it. So honestly, we have no idea what it is. And the worst thing is the administration knows this too. And they'll be like, oh, you want nap spaces? Well, hey, let's put it in the Smith Campus Center. Oh, you want like a space for a big Harvard Yale thing? Well, when the Smith Campus Center is done, like that's gonna have it. It's just become this thing where they can shove whatever they want and they won't talk about what's real, right? So once we know what that is, just based on the talk that we've heard, it's not going to be an undergraduate space. And we're gonna push, we're gonna say, hey, like, one of the people, the guys who gave the money, were last year, the UC actually wrote a report on this a while ago. And they cited this report as like evidence that students wanted it. And quite honestly, just based on what the talk on the Smith Campus Center is, everything that's going to be in there is like exactly not what's in that report. So I think we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, as far as how much time?
Time.
Pushing for a change of time and breakfast. And if I can quote the facts exactly, you said breakfast used to be 7 to 10 and is now 7:15 to 10:15. I was intrigued by this and I went onto the Annenberg website. That is not true. Annenberg breakfast is from 7 to 10. After further delving, I found out that the HUD's manager had simply said, we generally keep it open to 7:15. Could you explain this, please?
So the fact that the HUD's manager keeps it open till 7:15 is exactly what we pushed for, so that if you have a 9 a.m. class, you have the opportunity to get hot breakfast after your 9 a.m. class. Thank you very much.
I have a question for Drew. Earlier today, earlier today, you mentioned that you wanted to eliminate exams during housing day, or during that week or whatever. How will you do that?
So, as chair of the education committee, I've had the opportunity to work with both administrators and members of the faculty, right? And I pitched this idea to them because they're very specific classes that administer exams on housing day, and therefore our first job is to come up with the information of which classes actually administer these exams, and then have a conversation with those professors and make sure that that is not the case.
Okay. All right. Can we have a question for someone other than Alvin, just for the day? Gus, and I will cut you off. So
I understand. Thank you. Hi everyone. My name is Gus. I'll take it. So, UC leadership is a 2-semester process. In the second semester, generally, if you're a junior, will be during your senior fall, which is often when you are looking to get a job after graduation. I put 0 time into that process. But I think it's important to recognize that if you do put time into recruitment and those sorts of things, regardless of what field you're recruiting for, you will not devote as much time to UC and your performance could suffer. Could you please tell us about both your current time commitments if you were to become president, and also your time commitments as they relate to post-graduation plans?
All right, we'll start just from the other end.
Beautiful question. Thank you. So I got to talk about my current time commitments. I'm a TF for CS50.
Woo!
Woo! That's one. There's like one CS kid. I won't be doing that next semester. I won't be doing that next year if I'm elected. I'm a counselor for Room 13. I think that's incredibly important. I think it's one of the best things I do. I will be doing that.
In addition, I help teach Life and Physical Sciences A. I'm like a peer study leader there. I'm also a FOP leader, but that is currently throughout the summer. We also just got word on the Midwestern Club, which just got approved. Congratulations. But Tim Devine is also in place to do that. So Tim Devine will take care of that for this year and next year if we're elected. In addition, I think it's important to note that we're sophomores.
Yeah, so I'm on Kirklandoko, and I'm also a PAP. And I do all the things I do because I really care about them. I'm considering going to medical school after I graduate. And I'm actually in the middle of deciding whether I want to apply right out of college or whether I'm going to take a year off. So I'm not sure yet. But I do know that everything I do, I will do my best.
As far as my extracurriculars go, I'm an active member of the HRDC, which means that I do a show or two every semester, but I already decided before I decided to run to take a year-long break from that. I've been studying theater and going to theater school since I was in the 4th grade. It's time to take a break. That's my only extracurricular. I'm applying to be a FOP leader as well, and that's also during the summer. As far as jobs, I'm interested in entertainment, and that whole world works kind of differently. It's not a matter of recruitment and interviews. It's kind of people and you have internships over the summer and people hire you that way.
All right, time. Faith and Happy.
Yeah. So my main extracurricular are the UC and the Korea HOCO. So if elected, I would not join HOCO or would consider taking a lesser active role on HOCO. And I think in terms of recruitment, I'm not planning to go through the recruitment process, so yeah.
And for me, my biggest thing is I run a nonprofit that connects high school students from my district with college students who help them apply for the college and through the college application process. And then my second biggest commitment is school. In terms of the first one, I'm still going to be like committed to that because I'm passionate about it, but I've done like summer study abroad, and so I have credit so that I can take a lesser course load if elected.
All right, finally, Alvin.
Yeah, so I'm a member of Crimson Key Society, and that means I have to just get 2 one-hour tours per semester. I was also the president of HCIA, the Iranian Association. It's a small cultural group. I passed that down because of the campaign. Like Nagamsh, I wanted to go to medical school. I was planning to take my MCAT in January. Because of all the work I've been doing on the UC, I've actually postponed it to the summer. So that means I'm also going to be taking a gap year. So my future plans, I'm sorry, they're not set in stone yet, but it's not recruiting.
Yeah, and similarly, I'm part of Woodbridge and ACCG. If elected, I've made a decision that the UC will be my only commitment because I believe that if we are elected by the entire student body, this should be of highest priority, and there should be no conflict of interest, right? Because we deal with so many other student groups on campus, and so I don't think it should be any problem on that sphere, and hopefully if I get a return offer on my summer job, then I won't have to go through recruiting.
All right. Yep.